$45 billion just got wiped out on Wall Street. Just weeks earlier, the fund behind that number looked unstoppable. Billions were pouring in. Its bets on artificial intelligence were producing extraordinary returns. And some of the biggest names in technology were betting on the vision of a 24-year-old AI thinker. So how did a fund that looked like one of Wall Street's most aggressive AI bets suddenly become a fight for survival? At first, it looks like a simple story. A young investor made a massive bet, took on too much risk, and watched it collapse. But the deeper you look, the more complicated the story becomes. Because what happened next wasn't just about one bad bet or one bad decision. And by the end of this story, there's a twist that completely changes who you think was responsible for the collapse. So before we blame the 24-year-old at the center of it all, we need to understand exactly what happened behind the scenes. At just 24 years old, Leopold Aschenbrenner was running a hedge fund built around a simple but enormous bet that the people who understood the future of AI before everyone else could make extraordinary amounts of money. And Wall Street's technology elite were listening. Within months of launching Situational Awareness, Aschenbrenner had attracted more than $100 million from prominent technology figures and trading firms. Investors weren't simply betting on a young fund manager. They were betting on someone who had built his reputation around understanding where AI was heading. Then the numbers started getting hard to ignore. Investors poured more than $1 billion into the fund, and its assets eventually climbed into the billions. Early returns seemed to prove the strategy was working. But those returns came with a catch. Aschenbrenner wasn't just making aggressive bets on AI. He was using enormous positions to amplify them. And when the market was moving in his favor, that made him look brilliant. When it turned against him, the same strategy would turn billions of dollars of exposure into a problem he could no longer control. The strategy was straightforward. Bet heavily on the companies that stood to benefit from the AI boom, and bet against businesses Aschenbrenner believed AI could eventually disrupt. Situational Awareness built large positions across AI infrastructure, semiconductors, and private AI companies. And for a while, it looked like the strategy was working perfectly. But there was a weakness hiding underneath all that success. These weren't as many different bets as they appeared to be. A large part of the portfolio depended on the same assumption, that the AI boom would keep accelerating. If AI continued to outperform expectations, Aschenbrenner could look like a genius. But if that story suddenly changed, the losses wouldn't arrive one position at a time. They could arrive together, and that was dangerous enough on its own. But Aschenbrenner had made the bet even bigger. He wasn't relying only on the fund's own money. He was borrowing billions to amplify the trade. And that decision would eventually turn a bad month in the AI market into something much more dangerous. And this is where the strategy became dangerous. Situational Awareness wasn't just investing its own money in AI stocks. It was borrowing billions to make those bets much larger. When the stocks went up, leverage made the returns look extraordinary. But when they fell, the same leverage worked in reverse. And because so many of the fund's positions depended on the same AI boom, a decline in one part of the market could hit the portfolio from multiple directions at once. Suddenly, Aschenbrenner didn't just need his AI thesis to be right. He needed the market to stay right long enough for him to survive. And for months, that wasn't a problem. Then the AI trade started to crack. So what actually caused the collapse? It wasn't simply that AI stocks fell. And it wasn't just bad timing. It was several risks hitting at the same time. The fund had enormous conviction in AI, concentrated many of its positions around the same theme, and then used borrowed money to make those bets even larger. When the market turned, the losses were amplified. When the losses grew, lenders demanded more collateral. And when the fund needed to sell, it was trying to unload billions of dollars of positions while the market was already falling. That's the chain reaction. The fund didn't necessarily need its AI thesis to be completely wrong. It simply needed more time than its financial structure could give it. And that's what makes this story bigger than one 24-year-old and one failed bet. You can be right about where the world is going and still lose if you don't have enough room to survive the journey. But there's one problem with that explanation. If this was simply a case of a young investor taking too much risk, why did some of the stocks he was forced to sell begin recovering after the deal? That's where the story takes a turn. Because the person who looked responsible at the beginning may not be the person who deserves the blame at the end. So after seeing the full picture, who do you think was really responsible for the collapse? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe.